Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe my CH Hanel. Enjoy the listening. 700,000 human warships arrive. The entire galaxy freezes in fear. The Galactic Concordat had existed for 12,000 cycles, a tapestry of 17 major species and hundreds of minor civilizations woven into an intricate political landscape. Humanity, barely 3 centuries into its interstellar infancy, existed on its fringes, tolerated but rarely respected. Earth and its 37 colony worlds were seen as little more than resource depots and convenient buffer zones between the territories of greater powers. Admiral K. Varen of the Arcturian Dominion stared at the emergency report with mounting disbelief. The mining outpost at Riel 9 had gone silent. Not unusual in itself, communication disruptions happened in that sector due to solar flare activity, but the automated defense grid's final transmission showed something unprecedented. 700 Earth vessels emerging from slip space simultaneously, perfectly coordinated, their hulls bearing no identification markings. "Impossible," he muttered, mandibles clicking in agitation. "The Sol Federation barely maintains 50 warships." His second-in-command, Subcommander Zalon, hunched forward. "Intelligence suggests they've been concealing their true military capabilities." "For what purpose? They've accepted every territorial concession we've demanded." "Perhaps that was their strategy all along, appearing weak while building their strength." The Admiral's compound eyes narrowed. Humans were unpredictable, but this suggested a level of patience and coordination their species had never demonstrated before. 3 cycles earlier, the incident at Proxima Centauri should have been a warning. The Sorin Collective had claimed mining rights to humanity's nearest stellar neighbor despite Earth's protests that it violated prior territorial agreements. When Earth representatives were barred from Concordat hearings, they had withdrawn quietly, too quietly in retrospect. Now reports flooded in from across the galactic rim. Human fleets emerging everywhere, striking with surgical precision at communication relays, defensive installations, and logistical hubs. Not random attacks, but a meticulously orchestrated campaign to isolate and segment Concordat forces. The Arcturian High Command received a transmission from Earth's newly declared United Terran Authority. Its contents were brief and chilling. "For 3 centuries, humanity extended its hand in peace. For 3 centuries, you perceived restraint as weakness. You took our colonies, you harvested our resources, you dismissed our grievances. Today, that misunderstanding ends. 700,000 warships now stand ready throughout Concordat space. We do not seek negotiations. We seek acknowledgement of a single truth. Humanity will no longer be subordinated." The transmission concluded with technical specifications of Earth's flagship dreadnoughts, vessels that dwarfed anything in the Concordat's combined fleets. Powered by artificial singularity drives previously thought theoretical, weapons platforms utilizing particle acceleration technologies, the Concordat had deemed too unstable for practical application. At the Galactic Concordat's emergency assembly, panic erupted among the delegates. How could they hide such military expansion? The Vespid Imperium's representative buzzed frantically. "Our surveillance networks would have detected construction on this scale." The answer came from an unexpected source, a junior Melon analyst who had specialized in human psychology. "They built them inside their gas giants," she said quietly. "Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, perfect camouflage for energy signatures. They've been manufacturing their fleet within the atmospheric layers for decades, shielded from our sensors." Surveillance footage began circulating between Concordat members. Massive shipyards emerging from the stormy depths of Jupiter, hundreds of vessels rising like leviathans from the golden clouds. The humans had transformed their system's greatest natural features into industrial forges of unprecedented scale. The first major engagement occurred at Dina Prime, home to the Concordat's largest military installation outside the core worlds. A flotilla of 43 Sorin battleships moved to intercept 3 human carriers. The battle lasted 6 minutes. The human vessels employed gravitational weaponry that distorted spacetime itself, creating localized singularities that tore Sorin ships apart atom by atom. Survivors reported that human vessels seemed to anticipate their tactical maneuvers, countering them before they even executed. "They're using precognitive battle AI," Admiral Kayin watched the footage with growing horror. systems that calculate probable enemy movements and respond preemptively. As the human advance continued, the Concordat's initial arrogance gave way to desperate pragmatism. The Arcturian Dominion, previously the most aggressive toward human territories, now proposed immediate recognition of humanity's sovereignty over disputed systems. Too late, human ships appeared in orbit around Arcaria Prime itself. They made no demands, attempted no communication. They simply waited, a silent, omnipresent threat, demonstrating that nowhere was beyond their reach. The Vespid Imperium attempted direct negotiations, sending their most accomplished diplomat to Earth. The human response was transmitted across all Concordat channels. Your emissary has been accommodated and will be returned unharmed. Your proposed concessions are insufficient. The time for negotiation was before you took Eden Colony, before you harvested Titan without compensation, before you blockaded Mars during the famine. Horror spread through the Concordat as strategists realized the full implications of humanity's grand deception. The humans hadn't just been building ships. They had been studying their opponents, documenting every transgression, preparing evidence for a day of reckoning they always knew would come. The human advance continued with algorithmic precision. They didn't destroy civilian populations or bombard habitable worlds. Their targets were strictly military and industrial: shipyards, weapons factories, command centers. They disabled rather than destroyed where possible, minimizing casualties while systematically dismantling the Concordat's ability to wage war. "This isn't blind vengeance," Admiral KN observed during a desperate high command meeting. "This is calculated demonstration. They're showing us they could annihilate us but are choosing not to." The Melon analyst nodded. Efficiency is valued in human military doctrine. They're achieving their strategic objectives while preserving resources they may later wish to access. "What do they want?" demanded the Sorin general. "Recognition," the analyst replied simply. "Humans have a concept they call respect. It's not merely acknowledgement of power, but a more complex social position. They believe it was denied to them. Now they're ensuring it cannot be withheld." As Phase 1 of the conflict drew to its close, humanity controlled 83% of Concordat military installations and had neutralized 94% of its combat-capable vessels. Yet Earth had still not formally declared its intentions beyond its initial message. The remaining Concordat forces prepared for a final desperate defense of their core worlds, knowing they faced an enemy whose patience had finally run out. An enemy who had spent 3 centuries studying them, learning their weaknesses, and methodically preparing for this moment. An enemy who had been underestimated for the very last time. The grand conclave of the remaining Concordat powers gathered on Centaur's Prime, their once opulent chamber now dimmed by emergency power protocols. Representatives from 15 species huddled together, former rivals now unified by existential fear. The Sorin Collective, the Arcturian Dominion, the Vespid Imperium, and even the reclusive Melomans, all had suffered devastating losses to the human offensive. "We must form a united defense," declared High Marshal Zexelin of the Vespid. "Pull our remaining forces at the Ral choke point." Admiral K. Varin shook his head grimly. "The humans have already demonstrated they can bypass our conventional defenses. Their gravitational drives allow them to create microjumps within planetary atmospheres, tactics our doctrine considers impossible." The Melon analyst who had previously illuminated human psychology spoke again. "Our greatest mistake was assuming humans think as we do. Their historical development on Earth was unique. They evolved as persistence predators." "Meaning?" demanded the Sorin representative. "They don't win by overwhelming force. They win by outlasting their prey, pursuing relentlessly until exhaustion claims their target. This strategy we're witnessing isn't recent. It's the culmination of centuries of patience." A communications officer interrupted with urgent news. The humans had broadcast a request for representatives of all Concordat species to meet them at neutral territory, the ancient trading post of Proxima Station, ironically located near the very star where the conflict had begun. After heated debate, the conclave agreed to send emissaries. They arrived to find a single human vessel in orbit around the station, a relatively small diplomatic cruiser rather than one of their massive dreadnoughts. "A deliberate choice," the Melon analyst noted, "a gesture." Inside the station's negotiation chamber, the human delegation was led by a silver-haired woman who introduced herself as Admiral Helena Frost of the United Terran Authority. "We appreciate your willingness to meet," she began without preamble. "It demonstrates wisdom that has been previously absent from our interactions." The Arcturian representative bristled. "You launch an unprovoked attack across 7 systems and speak of wisdom." Frost's expression remained impassive. "Unprovoked, interesting perspective, let me show you something." The center of the table illuminated with a holographic display. It showed a small agricultural colony, human children playing, farmers tending fields. Then Sauran ships descending, the colony's minimal defenses overwhelmed within minutes, the colonists rounded up, their possessions stripped, their homes dismantled for resources. "Eden Colony 2286, Frost narrated. "Population 4,892. We submitted 17 formal protests to the Concordat, all dismissed." The display shifted to another colony, this one on an ice moon. Arcturian mining ships bored into the surface, extracting rare minerals while ignoring the human settlement's warnings about structural integrity. Then catastrophic collapse, the dome breaching, emergency protocols failing as atmosphere vented into space. "Titan Research Station 2304, Frost continued. "Population 1,741. Your response: unfortunate accident due to human engineering failures." For 2 hours, the display documented incident after incident. Human colonies annexed, resources appropriated, territorial violations dismissed by Concordat adjudicators. Some representatives shifted uncomfortably, others stared in defiant silence. 329 documented transgressions, Frost finally concluded. Each catalogued, verified, and submitted through your own legal channels, each ignored or dismissed. "If these injustices were so severe," the Vespid representative challenged, "why wait centuries to respond? Why the elaborate deception?" For the first time, Frost's composure cracked slightly, a flash of something ancient and cold in her eyes. "Because we needed to be certain," she said quietly. "We needed to know if peaceful coexistence was possible, or if the Concordat's contempt for our species was systemic rather than circumstantial." She stood, packing the chamber's perimeter. "Humanity almost destroyed itself before reaching the stars. Our history is scarred by war, by the knowledge of how close we came to extinction by our own hand. When we encountered your civilizations, we were determined not to repeat those mistakes." "So you claim this overwhelming military response is somehow a peaceful gesture?" the Sauran representative scoffed. "No," Frost replied. "It is the exhaustion of all peaceful alternatives. For 3 centuries, humanity restrained itself. We absorbed your provocations, we followed your legal procedures, we respected your customs, and we were rewarded with exploitation and dismissal." The massive holographic display shifted again, now showing the current disposition of forces throughout the galaxy. Human fleets positioned with strategic precision, Concordat defenses isolated and surrounded. "We could have annihilated your civilizations," Frost continued. "That was never our intention. What you're witnessing isn't warfare as you understand it. It's a demonstration of capability and resolve." The Melbourne representative, who had remained silent until now, finally spoke. "What are your terms, Admiral Frost?" Frost touched a control, and new information appeared before each representative. Detailed documents outlining proposed boundaries, resource-sharing agreements, mutual defense protocols, and reparation for documented transgressions. Full recognition of human sovereignty, return of illegally appropriated territories, reparations for documented losses, and a restructuring of the Concordat to ensure equal representation for all member species, including humanity. The chamber erupted in protests and counterarguments. The Vespid representative buzzed indignantly about the impossibility of the reparations demanded. The Arcturian spoke of historical precedent and existing treaties. The Sauran simply raged about human arrogance. Admiral Frost waited for the outrage to subside. When silence finally returned, she spoke with quiet finality. "These terms are not negotiable. You have 24 Earth hours to ratify this agreement, or we will demonstrate our resolve more emphatically." As the representatives conferred urgently among themselves, the Melon analyst approached Frost privately. "You never built 700,000 warships, did you?" she asked quietly. Frost's expression remained neutral. "Does it matter? The ones we did build proved sufficient." A bluff, the Meldon marveled. A species-wide bluff sustained for centuries. Not a bluff, Frost corrected. A contingency, one we sincerely hoped would never be necessary. The final vote was taken with just 2 hours remaining on the human ultimatum. The agreement was ratified with only the Sorin collective dissenting. True to their word, human forces immediately began withdrawing from contested systems, maintaining presence only where the new accord specified. The single exception was Sorin space, where human fleets remained in high orbit over major worlds, a silent reminder of the consequences of rejection. 3 days later, the Sorin collective submitted to the terms. As the new galactic order established itself, Admiral Kavarin met again with the Melon analyst who had so accurately predicted human behavior. "You understand them better than anyone," he said. "Do you believe they will honor these accords, or is this merely the beginning of human dominance?" She considered carefully before answering. Humans are paradoxical, capable of tremendous violence, yet deeply committed to ideals of justice. Their patience is formidable, their memories long, but yes, I believe they will honor the agreement, provided we do the same. And if we do not? Then they will remind us, Admiral, as they have just done. Humanity doesn't wish to rule the galaxy, they simply refuse to be ruled by it. Across reconstructed Concordat space, the massive human fleet began to disperse. Some vessels returned to Earth, others established presence in newly recognized human territories. Most, however, simply vanished, returning, intelligence suggested, to the hidden shipyards within Jupiter's clouds. A reserve force waiting and watching, a promise that humanity would never again be taken for granted in the cosmic order. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humans were not merely another species to be exploited or dismissed. They were patient predators who would endure any hardship, wait any length of time, and go to extraordinary lengths to ensure a single immutable truth. Humanity would never again bow to those who mistook their patience for weakness.